Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are opening a file that I think for a lot of people, maybe even you listening right now, is going to feel uh, less like a research review and more like someone broke into your house and read your diary. We have a stack of sources here that claim to explain a very specific and I think very common type of friction. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and it feels like everyone else has a script and you're the only one improvising?
It's the missing manual phenomenon. It's pervasive, it's painful, and for the longest time it hasn't really had a name. It's just been this kind of free-floating anxiety.
Exactly. But we aren't talking about general social anxiety here. We aren't talking about just being shy or, introverted. We are talking about a specific cognitive profile. The sources we've got call it outcast intelligence that treats social interaction not as an instinct, but as a high-stakes, confusing data stream.
Yeah, a stream of data that you're trying to decrypt in real time while also trying to smile and make eye contact, it's impossible.
It really is. And so the mission today is to figure out why that happens and, more importantly, how to fix it without, lobotomizing your own personality.
That is the key. Because usually when people feel this friction, the sense that they are constantly missing the beat, the advice they get is incredibly reductive. It's just relax.
Ugh, the worst.
Don't overthink it. Or my favorite, just be yourself.
Which is meaningless. What does that even mean when yourself is the one who's overthinking it?
Exactly. And the sources we are looking at today argue that for this specific type of mind, that advice is not just unhelpful, it is technically incorrect. It's like a category error.
It's like telling someone who doesn't know how to swim to just enjoy the water.
Precisely. If you don't have the procedural knowledge, the stroke mechanics, the breathing rhythm, enjoying the water is a good way to drown.
Right.
So we are going to look at this through what the sources call a non-dual lens. We aren't going to say you're broken. We aren't going to say society is evil. We are going to look at it as a hardware compatibility issue.
Okay, I like that. A compatibility issue.
You have a high-performance, pattern-seeking engine that was built for survival, and you are trying to drive it on a social road system that was designed for a completely different type of vehicle.
And that vehicle, for most people, it runs on autopilot. That's the first big insight I want to dig into. The concept of implicit learning versus what you, the listener, might have to do. Because I think a lot of us assume that everyone is thinking as hard as we are during a conversation.
Right, that they're running the same complex calculations.
But the sources say, no.
No.
Not at all. They aren't.
All right. So let's look at the social choreography, the
Yeah.
dance of conversation, eye contact, tone, pacing. This is a skill system. It is not magic. It is a data set. And for the vast majority of the population, let's just call them the standard neurotype for the sake of this discussion, this data set is downloaded implicitly.
Implicitly meaning they don't study for it. They don't have flashcards for how to say hello. It just happens.
Correct. They absorb it by osmosis. Between the ages of, say, 2 and 7, they are watching their parents, their peers, the TV, and their mirror neurons are just firing like crazy. They are copying the vibe.
The vibe.
Yeah. They don't know why they pause for 2 seconds before answering a question. They just feel that they should. It's a felt sense. It bypasses the analytical cortex almost entirely. It goes straight to the procedural memory.
Okay, so they get the software update automatically in the background. It's like firmware. You don't even know what's happening. But for the people we are talking about, the learners, as the sources call them, or the outcasts, that download failed.
It failed, or it was interrupted, or the operating system was just different to begin with. Maybe it was, some form of neurodivergence. Maybe it was childhood isolation. Maybe it was neglect. The reason, in a way, matters less than the result.
And the result is?
The result is that you arrive at adulthood without the implicit software. You are standing on the stage, the music is playing, everyone else is doing the choreography in perfect unison, and you are standing there trying to mathematically calculate where to put your foot next based on the velocity of the other dancers.
And that calculation is expensive. I mean, literally energetically expensive. The sources talk about social fatigue not as an emotional state, but as a metabolic one, like you've actually burned through your glucose reserves.
It is cognitive load. It's a huge drain. Think about it like driving. If you are driving an automatic car on a highway, you know well, you can eat a sandwich, talk on the phone, listen to a podcast. That's the standard mind in a social setting. They have spare RAM. They can multitask.
But if you are driving a manual transmission car.
If you are driving a manual transmission car uphill, in the rain, with a sticky clutch, and you don't know the route, you cannot eat the sandwich.
Chance.
You are hyper-focused on the mechanics. Clutch in, shift to second. Ease off gas, check mirrors. Every single gear shift is a conscious decision. That is why our listener can be the smartest person in the room, an astrophysicist, a developer, a writer, but leave a simple cocktail party feeling like they just ran a marathon.
Because they were manually operating a system that everyone else has on autopilot.
Wow.
Wow, that validates so much. It explains why you can genuinely love people, I mean, really care about them,
Yeah.
but still need to lie in a dark room for 3 hours after seeing them.
Exactly. It isn't misanthropy. It is pure, unadulterated exhaustion.
So, okay, if we accept that we were driving the manual transmission, we need to actually learn the gears. We can't just feel them. And this is where the sources get really, really interesting because they start breaking down these invisible rules.
Yeah.
These are the things that standard minds take for granted, but learner minds trip over constantly.
Yes. These are the tokens of the social economy that nobody explained to you. And because nobody explained them, you misinterpret their value constantly.
Let's run through the big ones. The first one that just jumped out at me was teasing, because I think this causes so much unnecessary pain. I remember being a kid and having someone make fun of my shoes, and I just crumbled. I thought, why do they hate me?
Oh, it causes massive pain. To a pattern-sensitive, truth-oriented mind, which is what the outcast usually has, teasing looks like an attack. It computes as hostility. If you say, nice shirt, did you get that from the dumpster? My literal processing layer says, 1, that is an insult. 2, he thinks I am poor. 3, this is a threat to my social standing.
Right. Why would you say that if we are friends? That creates a logical paradox in our relationship.
But in the standard social algorithm, that sentence is an affiliative test. It's a game. The person is gently pushing on the relationship to see if it holds. They are saying, I feel safe enough with you to simulate an attack, knowing you will understand it is a simulation.
It's like puppies biting each other.
Exactly. Puppies bite to prove they won't draw blood. It's play fighting. But if you don't know that rule, if you don't have that token in your database, you recoil. You defend yourself. You go into logic mode.
You do. You say, actually, this shirt is from a very reputable brand and the stitching is high quality.
And then the vibe dies instantly.
Oof, gone.
Because you treated a play signal as a data signal. The other person feels awkward because their play invitation was rejected with logic. You feel attacked. The connection severs right there.
And the worst part, the absolute worst part, is that the standard person thinks you are the weird one for taking it seriously. They say, whoa, relax, I was just kidding.
Which feels like gaslighting to the outcast mind. It feels like they're denying the reality of what they just said. But it isn't malicious. It's a protocol mismatch. It's like you're trying to open a Mac file on a Windows 95 machine.
Okay, another one that I found fascinating was self-deprecation. I feel like I use this, but I'm not sure I'm using it correctly. The sources call it a safety signal. What does that mean?
It's a status regulator. Think about it. If I come into a room and I am confident, competent, intelligent, and loud, I might trigger a threat response in others. Who is this guy? Does he think he's better than us? Is he going to dominate the group?
Yeah, you could seem arrogant.
Right. So self-deprecation is the tool to disarm that.
Yeah.
I trip over the rug and say, wow, I am a graceful ballerina today. Or I tell a story about how I burned the toast this morning.
You are lowering your status voluntarily to make everyone else comfortable.
Yes. I am signaling, I'm not a threat. I have flaws. We are equals. It's a preemptive move to build rapport. But here is the trap for the outcast mind. If you are already feeling insecure, or if you value competence above all else because that's your only source of self-worth, you might refuse to do this.
You'd think, why would I admit I'm clumsy? I want them to respect me. Competence is all I have.
Precisely. Or, on the flip side, you do it too much. You just insult yourself constantly because you think that's what people want, but it just makes everyone deeply uncomfortable.
Right, because you crossed the line from a signal into what feels like a cry for help.
That is the calibration issue. It has to be a signal, not a confession. It's a token you play to level the playing field, not a therapy session. The standard mind knows exactly how much to lower the status dial. Just enough to be safe, not enough to be pathetic. The learner has to study that dial and learn it explicitly.
The one that really hit home for me, and I think this is the classic smart person trap, is correcting minor inaccuracies.
Actually, syndrome? Oh, this one is huge.
Yes. Someone tells a story about how they waited 40 minutes for a table, and you, with your perfect memory, you say, it was actually only 25 minutes, I checked the text logs. You think you are helping. You're providing accuracy. You are fixing the record.
You are serving the God of truth. You're a fact checker. You believe that a shared, accurate reality is the foundation of trust.
But that's not what's happening in their world at all, is it?
Not even close. The other person is serving the god of harmony. In the social algorithm, the specific data points of a casual story are almost irrelevant. The story is a vehicle for shared emotion. I was frustrated because I waited. That is the truth they are conveying. The number is just set dressing.
So when I correct the timestamp, I'm not fixing the story. I'm derailing the emotion. I'm telling them their feeling is based on bad data.
You are halting the flow of connection to insert a footnote. It feels like a rejection. It feels like you care more about the facts than you care about them. And to a standard mind, that is deeply confusing and a little insulting. Why does he care about the 15 minutes? Does he think I'm a liar?
Whereas the outcast mind is thinking, I am showing respect by ensuring our shared reality is accurate. How can we connect if we don't agree on the basic facts?
Precisely. It is a fundamental mismatch of intent and priority. And this is why the manual is so important. You have to learn that in this specific game, the game of casual socializing accuracy is not the highest point scorer. Harmony is. Connection is.
That is a hard pill to swallow if you've built your whole identity on being the one who knows the facts.
It is. It really is. But we have to look at the origin story to understand why you built that identity in the first place. Because the sources make a really crucial pivot here. We stop talking about what you are missing, the social skills, and start talking about what you built instead, this concept of outcast intelligence.
I love this reframe. I really do. Because it stops feeling like a defect and starts feeling like an adaptation. The source material calls it brilliance built from exclusion.
Yes. Consider the environment of the learner child. Maybe they were bullied, maybe they were neglected, maybe they just felt like an alien for reasons they couldn't articulate. In that environment, other people are not a source of safety. They are a source of chaos.
Unpredictable.
Totally unpredictable. They hurt you without warning. They say one thing and do another. The rules change constantly.
So you can't rely on the tribe to keep you safe. You can't trust their signals.
No. So what does a high-functioning brain do? It pivots. It stops studying people and starts studying systems. It starts looking for patterns that don't lie. Books, code, mechanics, nature, logic, music theory. These things are consistent. If I do X, Y happens. Always.
So you retreat into the world of predictable patterns. You become a researcher of reality because reality feels safer than people.
You don't just retreat, you become a master of it. You develop a hypervigilance for structure. You learn to see the deep architecture of things because that is where your safety lives. The source uses this metaphor of a diamond formed under pressure. The pressure was isolation, loneliness, exclusion. The result is a mind that is incredibly hard, incredibly clear, and able to cut through complexity that would baffle a standard mind.
It's a superpower born from pain.
It is. The sources list out the traits. Pattern-sensitive, contradiction-tolerant, philosophically recursive, meaning-driven. You can hold two opposing ideas in your head at the same time because you had to hold my parents love me and my parents hurt me in the same thought.
That's a huge one, contradiction tolerance.
But we have to be really careful here, right? Because there's a tendency to romanticize the pain, to say, oh, the trauma made me a genius, and that's not what this is about.
Right. It's a non-dual analysis.
We must be very non-dual about this. The pain was real, and it was awful. We do not validate the neglect or the bullying, but we must validate the result. The adaptation is real. We can't separate the pain from the gift. The intelligence you have, that pattern sensitivity, that ability to handle contradictions is real. It is a diamond. It was formed in the dark, yes, and that's tragic, but it is still a diamond.
So the goal isn't to say, I wish I wasn't this way. It's to say, this is the engine I have. This is the hardware I'm running. How do I use it?
Correct. And that brings us to the architecture of how this mind actually works. The sources discuss this concept of density versus flatness. This is the cognitive science part of the sources that I found the most illuminating. It really explains the why behind the communication friction.
They use the river analogy. Walk us through that because I think it's brilliant.
Okay. Imagine a standard thinker looking at a river. They see water. They classify it. River. Geography, nature, wet. Done. They have put it in a box. And this is efficient. It's a very useful adaptation. It allows them to navigate the world quickly. They know not to walk into it. They know it's pretty. They move on.
It's a shortcut, a heuristic. River, water.
Exactly, a flat label. Now, imagine the dense thinker, our outcast, looking at the same river. They don't just see the category river. They see the physics of the flow, the turbulence, the laminar patterns. They feel the passage of time that the water represents, the history of erosion. They see the geometry of the banks. They might connect it to a poem they read about time, or the water cycle, or the history of the town that grew up beside it, or the politics of water rights.
Holographic. It's all those things at once, and they are all interconnected.
It is structure across domains. To the dense mind, a river is a convergence of physics, philosophy, history, and biology. It is a thick, multidimensional object. It has depth.
Which sounds beautiful, honestly.
Yeah.
It sounds like a richer way to experience the world. More meaningful.
It is beautiful, and it is incredibly lonely, because communication requires a shared protocol. If I hand you a cup of water and you see a cup of water, but I see the molecular miracle of life and the supply chain of ceramics and the history of human settlement around water sources, we are going to have a hard time waiting for the bus together.
Laughs, right? Just drink the water, man. It's just water.
And that brings us to the violence of categorization. This is a strong term the sources use, but I think it fits the subjective experience of the dense mind.
Violence. That feels heavy. Why that word?
It feels violent to the dense mind because when you try to share your holographic view, when you try to explain that the river is time and geometry and poetry, the standard mind will almost instinctively try to cut it down to make it manageable for their system. They will say, you're overthinking it. It's just water.
They cut the connections you just made. They take your beautiful integrated web of meaning and they just snip, snip, snip.
They sever the connective tissue of your reality to make it fit into their boxes. To them, they are clarifying. They're helping you focus. They're being practical. But to you, it feels like they are butchering the meaning. They are killing the wholeness of the thought. They're fracturing your coherence.
And that hurts. It feels like a fundamental rejection of your mind. It feels like they're saying, your reality is too big, it's too complex, make it smaller so I can handle it.
It triggers what the sources call recursive irritation. This is the cycle that destroys relationships between these two types of minds. It happens over and over again.
Let's role play this because I want to make sure I get the mechanics of the fight.
Yeah.
I've been in this fight 1,000 times. I'll be the dense mind, you be the standard mind.
Okay, I'm ready. Set the scene.
Okay, we're a couple, and I'm feeling disconnected from you. But to me, that disconnection isn't just an emotion. It's connected to how we've been spending our evenings and the mess in the house and maybe even the gray weather. It's a whole mood, a whole system. So I say. I feel like the static in the house is drowning out our signal.
Standard mode. What static? Is the TV broken? I don't hear anything. Or are you saying the house is messy again?
No, it's not the TV. It's the feeling of the clutter. It's the lack of intention. It feels like we're stagnating, like the air isn't moving.
Standard mode. Okay, so you want to clean the house. I can take out the trash if that's what you want. Just tell me what to do. Stop speaking in riddles. What is the actual problem?
And now I'm mad. I'm furious. Because you just reduced my existential crisis about the state of our relationship to a trash bag.
And I'm mad because I offered a concrete solution, taking out the trash, and you rejected it. I think you are being impossible and vague. You think I am being spiritually blind and reductive.
That is exactly it. I feel like you don't see me, you don't get the deeper reality, and you feel like I'm just making things up and being difficult.
That is the recursive irritation. The harder the standard mind tries to cut the problem into solvable parts, trash, TV, schedule, the harder the dense mind tries to merge the problem back into a meaningful whole. It is a tug of war where you are pulling in opposite directions of abstraction, and nobody wins.
So how do we stop pulling? Because that dynamic ends marriages, that dynamic ends friendships. It's poison.
The sources suggest we need to move to a non-dual frame. And this is the hardest part, but also the most liberating. You have to stop seeing structure and feeling as opposites. You have to stop seeing smart and social as enemies. They're the same thing at different resolutions.
What does that mean practically in that argument about the house? How do I use a non-dual frame there?
It means the dense mind, and this is key because it is the one with the higher pattern recognition, has to take responsibility for the translation. You have to be the one to build the bridge.
Wait, why do I have to do it? Why can't they learn to be deep? It feels unfair that I always have to be the one to adjust and do the extra work.
It is unfair, in a sense. I totally get that feeling. But think about capacity. You can see their shore. You understand simplification. You do it all the time when you code or organize files or write an outline. You know what a box is. But they cannot see your shore. They literally cannot perceive the holographic connections you are seeing. It is an asymmetry of perception.
Okay, so I'm the one with the binoculars. I have to guide the ship because I'm the only one who can see both land and sea.
Exactly. You are the navigator. So in that argument, instead of getting mad that they mentioned the trash, you translate. You consciously shift gears. You say, I know this sounds vague, and I appreciate you trying to find a solution. Let me try to explain it differently. I am running a high context thought right now, but for me, The mess in the hallway is triggering a feeling of being stuck in our relationship. If we clean the hallway together as a team, I think I will feel more connected to you.
Whoa, okay. You validated their need for concrete action, cleaning, but you explicitly linked it to your complex need connection. You didn't give up your meaning.
You translated the vibe into mechanics. You gave them a button to push, clean the hall, that satisfies your complex, high-context need. That is the art of the manual. That's using your superpower for connection, not just for analysis.
Converting vibe to mechanics. That is the headline for the solution section here, because the sources are very, very clear. You don't have to become a robot. You don't have to become flat, but you do have to use your system thinking to hack the social interaction.
Yes. Do not try to use an intuition you don't have. It will fail you. Use the intelligence you do have. Treat socializing as pattern mapping. It's a system like any other.
So give us the algorithm. What is the code for small talk? Because small talk is the absolute bane of the outcast's existence. It feels meaningless and fake.
It feels meaningless because you're looking for data transfer, but its function is connection testing. The source breaks it down into a loop. Signal response alignment repair. Every single interaction is just this loop repeating.
Okay, break that down.
Step 1, signal. Someone says, "How are you?" That is not a request for data. It is a connection ping.
Response. You have a choice. You can escalate, go deeper, de-escalate, end it, or maintain, stay surface.
And this is where the thumbnail concept comes in, right? This is my favorite takeaway from the whole stack. I think this is a game changer.
Yes. This is a crucial tool. The dense mind wants to transfer the whole file. You want to share the 4 GB movie of your inner world. Someone says, "How am I?" And you want to say, "Well, I've been thinking about the heat death of the universe and my childhood trauma and this fascinating article I read about the migratory patterns of bees."
And the other person's server just crashes, file too large, transfer failed. You see their eyes glaze over.
Exactly. And you see their eyes glaze over and you feel rejected. You think, they don't care about me. So you have to send a thumbnail first, a low-resolution preview of the file.
So how are you? The thumbnail response would be.
I'm good, a little tired, but can't complain. Just been thinking about some weird space stuff today. How about you?
That is the thumbnail. It is true. You are thinking about space, but it is compressed into a small, manageable package, and you've tossed the ball back. It's a preview image for the movie.
And here's the magic. If they click on the thumbnail, if they say, "Oh, space stuff," like what? Then you have permission to upload more data. You can upgrade to 720p.
Yeah.
Oh, just reading about black holes and how time works around them. It's wild.
And if they keep clicking, if they ask another question.
Eventually, you can stream the 4K movie. But you cannot start with the 4K movie. You have to wait for the bandwidth to be established. You have to test the connection speed first.
I think that solves the fake problem for me, because I always worried that if I didn't say everything, if I wasn't totally honest about my complex inner state, I was being inauthentic. But a thumbnail isn't a fake image, it's just a small version of the real image.
Correct. It is interface design. You are designing a user interface for your own mind that makes it accessible to others. That isn't manipulation, it's courtesy. You are making yourself user-friendly.
Interface design for the soul. I love that. But let's get into the nitty-gritty of the loop. What about when things go wrong? The repair function.
This is so crucial because the outcast mind tends to catastrophize errors. You say something awkward, there is a 2-second silence and your brain screams, "Game over. I am exiled. I must move to a new city and change my name."
Abandon ship. Eject. Never speak to these people again. They all hate me now.
Yes, that whole spiral.
Yeah.
But the standard social protocol allows for repair. In fact, repair is a bonding mechanism. If you say something weird and then you laugh and say, "Wow, that came out wrong. I haven't had my coffee yet," that is a repair token.
You are acknowledging the glitch in the system.
And by acknowledging it, you prove you are sane. You prove you know the rules, even if you just broke one. That restores safety to the interaction. The awkwardness evaporates instantly.
So the mistake itself isn't the fatal error. The failure to acknowledge the mistake is the fatal error.
Exactly. If you pretend it didn't happen, the other person is left holding the awkwardness. They're thinking, "Was that weird? Am I the weird one for thinking I was weird?" If you take it back, you release the tension for everyone.
This makes the whole thing feel so much less high stakes. It's just a game of catch. If you drop the ball, you just pick it up and say, "My bad," and throw it again. You don't have to storm off the field in shame.
You don't have to leave the park. And this brings us to the final non-dual conclusion. The fear that drives all of this, the anxiety, the overanalysis, the retreat into systems, is the fear that you are fundamentally incompatible with the world. that you have to choose.
The either-or trap. I can be brilliant and lonely, or I can be dumb and popular.
And the sources scream no to that. It is a false dichotomy. You do not have to lobotomize yourself to belong. You have to adapt. And the beautiful thing is, you are a master adapter. You are brilliant because you are an adapter. You survived isolation by building a diamond mind. Now you just have to use that diamond to cut a key for the door of connection.
Use the complexity to solve the simplicity. You use your system brain to map their social brain.
Yes. You are the one who can learn the manual explicitly. You are the one who can translate the dense thoughts into flat thumbnails. You are the bridge builder. The standard world will never build a bridge to you because they don't even know the chasm exists. They just think you're quiet or a bit weird. You see the chasm, so you have to build the bridge.
That puts the agency back in our hands. It's not fair, maybe. It's more work for us, for sure. But it's possible. It's a solvable problem, not a personality defect.
It is the burden of higher awareness, but it is also the power. It's the agency to write your own script instead of feeling like you're failing to read someone else's.
I want to circle back to one technical detail we glossed over because I think it's a specific tool people can use tomorrow. The tone softening rule. We mentioned it in the list, but we didn't explain the why.
Ah, yes, the declarative tone. This is a classic trait of the system-focused, truth-oriented mind. When you state a fact, you tend to state it flatly, with a falling intonation at the end. The meeting is at 2.0. That won't work. You are wrong.
Because it is efficient. It is the most direct transfer of data. Why would I dress it up? Adding fluff is inefficient.
But to a mammal, and remember, we are just highly evolved mammals, wearing pants, a flat, falling intonation sounds like a command. It sounds like dominance. On a primal subconscious level, it sounds like, I am the alpha, and I am telling you what reality is.
So I think I'm sharing data, but they hear me swinging a club and establishing hierarchy.
Yes. So the invisible rule is to add a relationship wrapper around the data. You soften the tone, you add a slight upward inflection at the end, you use qualifiers. Instead of, that won't work, you say, I'm not sure that will work, what do you think? Or, my concern with that approach might be X, have we considered Y?
You turn the period into a question mark?
You turn the command into an offering. You are putting the idea in the center of the table for the group to look at, rather than shoving it down their throats.
And again, the outcast mind hates this. It feels weak. Why do I have to pretend I'm not sure? I am sure. I've run the numbers.
You are pretending to be unsure about the facts. You are signaling that you are open to the relationship. You are prioritizing the safety of the group over the dominance of the data. That is the trade. And it's a strategic one.
Prioritizing the safety of the group over the dominance of the data. That is a massive shift in operating system. It's a complete paradigm shift.
It is.
Yeah.
But if you want to belong, if you want your brilliant ideas to actually be heard and implemented, that is the price of admission. And once you pay it, once you learn to wrap your data in warmth, you will find that people are suddenly much more willing to listen to your data.
Because they don't feel beaten up by it. They don't feel like they're in a status competition with you.
Exactly. You've made it safe for them to agree with you.
I feel like we've built a really comprehensive toolkit here. We have the mindset shift. You aren't broken. You're just running a manual transmission. We have the diagnostic tool, the recursive irritation loop. Don't let the standard mind cut your river. Learn to translate it for them. We have the actual mechanics, the thumbnail, the tone softener, the repair token.
It is a lot to practice. It won't happen overnight. But remember, the brain that learned to understand quantum physics or the deep lore of a fantasy universe or complex computer code, that brain is more than capable of learning to say, how about this weather? With a smile.
It's just a new data set, a new programming language.
It is just a new data set, and you're the best pattern recognizer in the room.
I want to leave the listener with a thought that kind of popped into my head while we were discussing the diamond.
Please.
We talked about how this mind is a diamond formed under pressure. And we talked about how hard it is to connect when you're that hard or dense. But think about what diamonds are actually used for in the real world. Besides jewelry, they are used for cutting. They are used for drilling. They are the only thing strong enough to cut through the hardest materials on Earth.
That is a potent image.
So perhaps your ability to see the structure across domains, that density that feels like a burden, isn't actually a barrier to connection. Maybe it's the only thing strong enough to build a bridge that can actually hold the full complexity of the modern world. Maybe the manual everyone else has is actually outdated. It was written for a simpler, flatter world. And you're writing the new one.
If we connect that to the bigger picture, In a world that is becoming increasingly complex, fragmented, and chaotic, the implicit rules might start breaking down for everyone. We might need people who can see the structure, who can explicitly map the chaos and translate between warring systems. The outcast might not be an outlier. They might be the prototype for the future
They're
navigator.
not lost, you're just the scouting party, mapping the new territory for everyone else.
Warmly, exactly.
This has been therapeutic, honestly. It feels like we just mapped a territory that I've been walking in circles in for 20 years.
It was a pleasure to unpack. It's a map a lot of us needed.
To everyone listening, don't throw away the diamond. Don't try to crush it into sand so you can fit in. Just learn how to polish it so it doesn't cut the people you want to hug.
Beautifully put.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Goodbye.